The night was silent on the edge of the colony. The stars stretched wide above the small human settlement, sharp and bright against the endless black. Machines hummed in the distance, and the wind carried the dry smell of the red desert. Most families were asleep, doors locked, lights dim, but in one house a man named Daniel sat awake. He stared out of the window, uneasy. Something had changed in the night air. He could not explain it, but he felt watched. His wife, Sarah, slept beside their small daughter, Emma. The house was warm and safe, but Daniel's chest was tight. Then, he heard it. A sound. Not human. It was soft, broken, almost like a cry. Daniel grabbed a light and stepped outside. The sand crunched under his boots. The sound came again, from the old ruins at the edge of the colony. No one went near those ruins. They were the remains of a war, a battle long forgotten by humans but not by the land. He followed the sound. His light cut through the dust, and then he saw it, a small figure, curled up in the shadows. At first he thought it was a human child. Thin arms, small body, shaking, but when he came closer his breath froze. The child's skin glowed faintly, almost silver under the moon. Its eyes opened wide and bright like pools of light, alien and ancient. The child whispered something. Words Daniel did not understand. A language not of Earth, but the tone was clear. Fear. Daniel lowered his light. "It's okay," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." The child reached out trembling, fingers long and strange but delicate. Daniel's heart twisted. Whoever this child was, it was alone, abandoned, lost. He could not leave it there. He carried the child home. When Sarah woke, she gasped. "Daniel, what is that?" "A child," he said. "Not human, but still a child." Sarah stepped closer, watching the small alien body curled under the blanket. It shivered even in the heat. She touched its forehead. It felt warm, alive, fragile. "Where did you find it?" "In the ruins." "Daniel, we can't," she began, fear in her voice. But then the child whimpered, a soft cry that pierced her heart. Her words died. Emma, their daughter, walked sleepily from her room, rubbing her eyes. She saw the child and smiled. "Baby," she whispered. She reached out, placing her little hand on the alien's arm. The alien child calmed, closing its glowing eyes as if comforted by the touch. Sarah looked at Daniel. They both understood in silence. This was no enemy. This was no weapon. This was a child who needed them, and so they kept it. Days turned into weeks. The colony was small and people noticed things. But Daniel and Sarah told no one. The child grew stronger. It learned simple human words: water, food, safe. It laughed when Emma played with it. It cried at night, whispering in its strange tongue. Sometimes Daniel would hear the same words repeated again and again, spoken with fear. "They will come. They will come," he asked the child. "Who will come?" But the child only shook its head, pressing close to him, eyes wide. The family gave the child a name, Luma, because of the way its eyes glowed in the dark. Luma followed Emma everywhere, running through the dusty streets, chasing after little toys, learning to smile like a human. But there was always something different. When Luma was upset, objects in the house shook. Lights flickered. Sometimes the air grew heavy, filled with strange energy. Sarah grew worried. What if someone sees? What if they take him from us? Daniel put a hand on her shoulder. "We'll protect him. He's ours now." Luma heard this once and asked in broken English, "Yours? Human's child?" Sarah knelt down, touching Luma's face. "Yes, you are our child now." For the first time, Luma smiled without fear. But peace never lasts forever. One night, Emma woke screaming. Sarah ran to her room only to find Luma standing by the window, glowing brighter than ever. His small body trembled. His voice, sharp and strange, filled the room. "They are near," he whispered. "Who?" Sarah asked, holding Emma close. Luma's eyes glowed with tears. His voice was heavy, too old for a child, "My people. They come." The house grew silent. Outside, the desert wind screamed against the walls. Daniel stared at the stars through the window. He felt it too now. A presence, something out there. Watching. Waiting. The family had adopted a child from the ruins of a forgotten war. They had given him love, food, and a home. But the truth could not stay hidden. and in the endless sky above something was already moving closer. The colony awoke to a strange silence. No birds sang in the sky, no insects hummed in the desert. Even the wind felt heavy, pressing down on the houses like an unseen hand. Daniel noticed it first. He was fixing a machine outside when his tools began to shake. At first he thought it was his hands, but then the shadow passed overhead. He froze. A shape glided across the sky, smooth, metallic, enormous. It was not a human ship. Its hull shimmered like liquid silver, bending sunlight in strange ways. The colony's alarms began to scream. People ran into the streets, staring upward, shielding their eyes. The ship circled once, silent like a predator above prey. Then it stopped. It did not land. It only hung in the sky, watching. Inside their home, Sarah pulled the children close. Emma clung to her mother, but Luma stood at the window. His small hands pressed against the glass, his glowing eyes wide with fear. Daniel shut the door and locked it. "It's them, isn't it?" he asked. His voice was sharp, urgent. Luma did not turn his head. Yes, Sarah's heart sank. "What do they want?" Luma whispered, "Me." The room went cold. All across the colony, radios crackled with panic. The human governor shouted orders, calling for calm. Soldiers gathered weapons, preparing defenses. But Daniel knew the truth. Nothing they had could match the ship above. That night, no one slept. The silver vessel stayed in the sky, silent and still. Lights flickered across its surface, scanning the ground below. Daniel sat awake, a rifle across his lap. Sarah sat with him, holding Emma. Luma curled in the corner, whispering to himself in the alien tongue, words soft and broken. At last, Daniel asked, "Why now? Why come after all these years?" Luma shook his head. "They were searching. They found." He looked at Daniel with tears in his glowing eyes. "They never stopped searching." Sarah touched his arm gently. "You're safe here. We won't let them take you." But Luma's voice was flat, almost hopeless. "No one stops them." On the third day, everything changed. The ship moved. Slowly, it lowered toward the desert. The ground trembled as dust storms rose in spirals beneath its massive body. The colony's sirens wailed. Families rushed into shelters. Daniel grabbed Sarah's arm. "We need to hide him." But before they could move, Luma spoke. "No, they already know. They feel me, like fire in the dark." The words chilled Daniel to his bones. A smaller craft detached from the mothership and descended like a falling star. It landed outside the colony, kicking up a wave of sand. The ground shook under the force. Then silence again. The door of the craft hissed open. A tall figure stepped out. The alien commander was unlike anything the humans had seen. His body was armored with natural plates that shimmered like stone and steel combined. His eyes glowed brighter than Luma's, sharp and commanding. Each step he took cracked the ground beneath his feet. The humans pointed weapons at him, soldiers trembling. But the commander did not attack. He only looked around, scanning faces, searching. Then his gaze fell on Luma. Even across the distance, the child shivered and stepped back. The commander's voice rolled like thunder. "Mine." Daniel moved quickly, stepping in front of Luma. His rifle shook in his hands, but he held his ground. "He's not yours. He's our son." The commander tilted his head, studying Daniel with cold curiosity. His lips curled, not in anger, but in something worse, amusement. "Human," he said slowly, his words heavy but clear. "You claim what is not yours." Sarah stood beside Daniel, her face pale but strong. "We took him when he was alone. We raised him. He is ours." The commander's eyes glowed hotter like burning coals. "You sheltered him, fed him, protected him. Why?" Daniel's voice cracked, but he forced the words out. "Because he needed us. Because he is family." The alien stared in silence. His soldiers inside the craft stirred, weapons humming. The tension was sharp enough to cut. Finally, the commander spoke again. "Strange. You humans, weak flesh, fragile bones, yet you stand before me." His gaze returned to Luma. "Child of my blood, you are not theirs. You are mine." Luma's small voice shook. I am both." The commander's head turned sharply. His armor flickered with strange light. For a moment his expression shifted, not anger, not hatred, but something unreadable. The humans around them watched, breathless. The colony was on edge. One wrong move and fire would fall from the sky. Then the commander lifted one massive hand, signaling his soldiers to stay back. He looked down at Daniel, Sarah, and Luma. "I will not take him. Not yet." His voice was deep, dangerous. First, I must know. What have you made him into? The silver ship above pulsed with light, casting shadows across the colony. The people trembled. Daniel's grip on his rifle tightened. Sarah held Luma close. Emma hid behind her mother, confused and afraid, and the commander simply stood, silent and still, like a storm waiting to break. The humans had kept their secret for years, but now the secret was standing in the open under the burning eyes of an alien father, and the worst part, he was not here to fight. Not yet. He was here to watch, to wait, to judge. The silver ship still hovered above the colony like a giant eye watching every move. For 3 long days it had remained silent and unmoving. The people grew restless, afraid to leave their homes, afraid even to speak too loud as if the alien vessel could hear them. But at dawn on the 4th day, the silence broke. A deep hum rolled across the desert, shaking windows and rattling doors. Lights flickered, animals cried out in fear. From the belly of the ship another craft descended, brighter and sharper than the first. It glowed as it cut through the sky, trailing fire, then landed in the open ground just beyond the colony's gates. Dust billowed, and the ground trembled. Daniel, Sarah, Emma, and Luma stood at the edge of their home, watching. Soldiers lined the streets, weapons ready but hands shaking. Mothers held children close. Everyone knew. Whatever stepped out of that craft could decide the fate of the colony. The ramp hissed open, and then he came. The alien commander descended with slow, heavy steps. His body armor glowed faintly, etched with symbols that seemed alive, shifting like smoke across his chest. His height was greater than any man, tall, broad, powerful, each movement sharp and controlled. His eyes burned with the same glow as Luma's, but deeper, older, carrying the weight of 1,000 battles. Every soldier in the colony aimed their rifle, but none dared fire. The commander did not draw a weapon. He simply walked forward, his presence enough to silence an entire crowd. Then his gaze fell on the small figure at the back, Luma. The child froze. His skin shimmered with faint light, as if his very blood recognized the one before him. The commander's voice thundered across the colony. "My child," the words were not shouted. They were calm, steady, but they carried power, echoing in the chest of every human who heard them. Daniel stepped forward, putting himself between the alien and Luma. His hands shook, but his voice was firm. "He's not just your child. He's ours. We raised him." The commander stopped, his glowing eyes narrowing. "Yours?" His tone was sharp, cutting. "You dare claim what belongs to me?" Sarah moved to Daniel's side, holding Emma's hand tightly. "We found him abandoned, alone. We gave him food, a home, love. You had nothing to do with that." The commander tilted his head slightly, as if studying insects that spoke back to him. Strange creatures. Soft, fragile, yet bold. His gaze flicked to Daniel again. "Tell me, human, why risk your life for a child not of your kind?" Daniel swallowed hard. "Because he needed us. Because he is family." The alien's eyes flashed. For a long moment he said nothing. Then slowly, his lips curved into something almost like a smile. But it was cold, humorless. "You speak of family," he said, his voice low. "You speak of love." Human words, weak words. He stepped closer, and the soldiers tensed, their weapons rising higher. But before they could act, the commander raised one massive hand. "Do not," he warned, his voice shaking the air. "If you fire, none of you will live." Luma's small voice broke the silence. "Father." The commander's head turned sharply, his glowing eyes softening for the first time. "Yes," he said. "Blood of my blood, flesh of my people." Luma stepped forward, trembling. I belong here." He pointed back at Daniel, Sarah, and Emma. "They are my family too." The commander's expression darkened. "You are of us, child. Not of them. Your power is ours. Your destiny is ours." Luma shook his head. "I am both." The crowd gasped at the child's words. The humans held their breath, waiting for the explosion of anger, the storm that would surely follow. But the commander did not strike. Instead, he turned slowly, staring at the humans again. "You have shaped him," he said at last, his tone almost curious. "Made him speak as you do. Think as you do. This I must understand." He lowered his hand, signaling his soldiers to remain inside their craft. "I will not take him today." His eyes burned into Daniel's. "But know this, human, you have stolen from me, and one day I will test what you have made of my child." The tension eased only slightly. but the fear remained thick in the air. Daniel's grip on his rifle was tight enough to hurt. Sarah clutched Emma close, her heart racing. The commander turned his gaze back to Luma. His voice softened just a fraction. "You are mine, little one. That truth cannot be changed. But until I decide, you will stay with them." With that, he stepped back toward his craft. The ramp hissed shut behind him. The colony let out a breath they did not know they had been holding. Soldiers lowered their weapons, some collapsing from the weight of their fear. But Daniel's heart was heavy. The commander had not left in defeat. He had left with patience, with time. And in the sky above, the silver ship still watched, its lights pulsing slowly, like the heartbeat of a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. That night, Daniel could not sleep. He sat at the window, rifle across his lap, watching the ship above. Sarah sat beside him, silent. Finally, she whispered, "What does he want?" Daniel shook his head. "Not just the boy. Not anymore. He wants to see what we've made him into. And when he comes again..." He looked at Luma, sleeping peacefully between Emma and Sarah. "We may not be enough to stop him." Outside, the stars flickered faintly, but none dared outshine the silent silver vessel. The arrival was only the beginning. The colony did not sleep after the commander's arrival. Everyone knew the truth now. An alien ship hovered above them, and inside that ship waited a fleet strong enough to erase them in seconds. But worse than weapons was the silence. The silver vessel did not fire, did not leave. It only lingered in the sky, day after day, watching. Inside the small human home, Daniel sat at the table with his head in his hands. Sarah stood by the window, staring upward. Emma slept fitfully, tossing with small cries, and Luma sat on the floor, knees pulled to his chest, glowing eyes lost in thought. At last, Daniel broke the silence. "We can't live like this. Every moment feels like waiting for death." Sarah's voice was low, almost bitter. "He doesn't want death. He wants Luma." Daniel looked at the boy. "Then we fight for him." But Luma shook his head. "No, you cannot fight him. His power is greater than all your guns. His army is endless." His voice trembled. "He is my father." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Then why does he wait? Why not just take you?" Luma's glowing eyes turned toward him. "Because of you. He wants to see what you made me." The next day, the commander returned. This time, he did not come alone. 2 more aliens walked with him, towering figures with armor that seemed to breathe with light. The crowd of colonists parted in fear as the aliens strode into the heart of the settlement. The commander stopped at the square, his eyes locking on Daniel, Sarah, and Luma. "You speak of love," he said, his voice like rolling thunder. "You claim family. Show me." Daniel stepped forward, his hands shaking but his voice steady. "We gave him food when he was hungry. We gave him warmth when he was cold. We taught him to laugh, to play, to hope. That's family." The commander tilted his head. "Empty words. You speak of things that vanish in war. A child needs strength, power, duty." Sarah stepped forward, fire in her eyes. "No, a child needs care. A child needs someone to hold him when he cries. Someone to protect him, not because of duty, but because of love." The alien commander's gaze narrowed. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, with a flick of his hand, one of the armored soldiers stepped forward. "Test them," the commander ordered. The soldier moved fast, his heavy body slamming into Daniel, knocking the rifle from his hands. Daniel fell but scrambled back to his feet, fists raised. The soldier swung, a blow strong enough to break bone, but Daniel ducked, stumbling, and shoved back with all his strength. It was like striking stone. The alien barely moved. Sarah screamed, rushing forward with a metal rod from the ground, striking the soldier's back. Sparks flew, but the alien only turned, eyes glowing. Emma cried out, clutching Luma's hand. Luma's small body trembled, his eyes burning with light. "Stop," he shouted, his voice shaking the air. The soldier froze, his body locked as if an invisible force held him in place. The ground cracked under Luma's feet as energy rippled outward. The commander raised a hand, signaling the soldier to retreat. The test was over. The commander looked down at Luma, his expression unreadable. "So they have awakened your power. Yet you use it for them." Luma's voice cracked. "They are my family. I protect them." The commander studied him for a long, heavy silence. Then he turned back to Daniel and Sarah. "You are bold for creatures so weak. You stand against my kind with no fear of death. Why?" Daniel, still catching his breath, answered with raw honesty. "Because he's my son, and no power in the stars will change that." The commander's eyes narrowed. His voice grew sharper. He is my son. My blood, Sarah stepped forward. Blood does not make family. Love does. The words hung in the air like a strike. Even the crowd behind them murmured, emboldened by her courage. The commander's face hardened. His soldiers shifted uneasily. For a moment it seemed battle would break out. But then the commander raised his hand, silencing all. Enough. His voice shook the ground. You claim him. I claim him. The child belongs to both worlds. But the fleet does not agree. He turned his gaze skyward where dozens of glowing shapes now moved in orbit, more ships than the humans could count. Others will not wait as I do. They will demand blood. They will take him by force. The humans fell into fearful silence. The commander looked back at Daniel, Sarah, and Luma one last time. You have until the next dawn. Convince me that he belongs with you, or I will take him. And if you resist, this colony will burn. With that, he turned and walked back to his craft, his armored soldiers at his side. The ramp closed behind them and the ship rose again, returning to the giant vessel above. Daniel's fists clenched. Sarah pulled Emma and Luma close, her heart pounding. The crowd scattered, whispers spreading like fire. They had one night to prove the impossible, and above them, the fleet circled, waiting. The clash of wills had only begun. The night before dawn was heavy with fear. No one in the colony slept. The air itself seemed tense, as if the sky waited to collapse. Families stayed inside their homes, whispering, praying, holding one another close. But in Daniel and Sarah's house, there was no rest. Daniel sat at the table, staring at his rifle. Sarah paced, her arms crossed, her face pale. Emma clung to her mother's side, too frightened to ask questions. And Luma sat alone, his glowing eyes fixed on the window, staring at the silver ship that still hung above them like a blade. At last, Daniel spoke. We can't run. If we hide, he'll find us. If we fight, we die. The only thing left is the truth. Sarah looked at him. And if the truth is worse than we fear? Daniel shook his head. Then we face it anyway. At dawn, the commander returned. His massive frame filled the colony square, his soldiers behind him, their armor humming with power. The humans gathered in silence, afraid but curious. The commander's burning eyes swept across the crowd and landed on Luma. It is time, he said. The truth you do not know. Daniel stepped forward. Then tell us. If you want him, if you want to tear him from us, at least explain why. The commander's voice rolled like thunder. He is not only my child. He is the last of my bloodline, born in the fire of war, hidden on this world to survive. Our enemies destroyed my people. Our fleets burned, our children slaughtered. Only one lived, him. Gasps spread through the humans. The truth fell like a stone in their hearts. Luma's eyes widened. You hid me? The commander nodded, his voice softer now. Yes, I placed you where even enemies would not search. I lost you. I searched every star, every shadow. And here you are, raised by humans. Sarah's face twisted with pain. So you abandoned him? You left him to die alone? The commander's voice grew sharp again. Do not mistake necessity for cruelty. If I had not hidden him, he would already be dead. My enemies would have found him. They would have cut his life before it began. Luma trembled. All this time, I thought I was lost, alone. But you left me. The commander stepped closer, kneeling for the first time so his eyes were level with the boys. His voice lowered, heavy with guilt. I left you. Because I had no choice, the crowd murmured. Some felt pity. Others only fear. Daniel clenched his fists. And now you've come to take him? After all this time, after we raised him, loved him, you want to claim him as if none of that matters? The commander's eyes burned hotter. Love does not change blood. Power does not change destiny. He turned his gaze to the sky where the fleet shimmered above. My people are gone. But others remain. Enemies who would see his blood erased. If he stays with you, they will come. And when they come, you cannot protect him. The words struck Daniel like a blade. He knew they were true. The humans had rifles, walls, courage. But against starships and alien armies, they were nothing. Still, he stepped forward, his voice firm. Maybe we can't protect him from everything. But we can give him something you never did. A home, a family, a reason to fight when the time comes. The commander's face darkened. His soldiers stirred. The air itself seemed to tighten. Then, to everyone's shock, the commander raised his hand. Enough. He looked down at Daniel, Sarah, and Luma. You think love makes him stronger? Perhaps. But love also makes him weak. It blinds him. It chains him. His gaze softened again as he studied his son. Yet I see something in him, something I do not understand. He turned to his soldiers, then to the sky where the fleet circled. But they will not wait. They demand action. They say the child must return. If not... He paused, his voice sharp as steel. They will take him by force, the colony gasped. Fear rippled through the humans like fire through dry grass. Sarah clutched Emma close. Daniel gritted his teeth. So this was never just about you? It's about all of them. The fleet, the others. The commander nodded slowly. They want him for power, for war, to rebuild what was lost, to use him as a weapon. Luma's voice broke. No, I don't want that. I don't want war. I just want... He turned to Daniel and Sarah. I just want family. The commander looked at his son, and for the first time his hard expression cracked. Not anger, not pride, pain. You speak as a human, he said softly. Not as one of us. The sky above flickered with light. The fleet shifted, ships breaking formation, preparing. The commander looked up, his jaw tight. They grow impatient. He turned back to Daniel. I cannot hold them forever. If you wish him to remain, you must prove it. Not to me, but to them. At dawn tomorrow they will demand blood. With that, the commander stepped back, his soldiers following. The ramp of his craft opened, and he disappeared inside. The colony was left in silence once again, but this silence was worse than any before. Because now the truth was clear. Luma was not only a child. He was the last of a bloodline. A weapon of war, a key to survival, or destruction, and the fleet above would not wait much longer. The colony square was silent under the shadow of the alien fleet. Hundreds of glowing ships filled the sky, forming a cage of light above the humans. It was dawn, but the sun's rays were drowned by the presence of the armada. Every colonist gathered in the square, faces pale, voices hushed. Soldiers stood with weapons ready, though all knew those rifles were useless against ships that could destroy a world. At the center of the square stood Daniel, Sarah, Emma, and Luma. Daniel's jaw was tight, his hands clenched into fists. Sarah held Emma close, whispering soft words of comfort. Luma stood apart, trembling, his glowing eyes staring up at the endless fleet. Then the ground shook. The commander returned. His massive frame cast a long shadow over the humans. His soldiers followed, their armor alive with light. Behind him, more alien figures descended from smaller crafts. They were different, leaders perhaps, or warlords. Their faces were hard, their eyes burning. One of them pointed at Luma and spoke with a voice like fire. The child is ours. His blood is ours. Return him or be destroyed. The humans gasped, clutching one another. Fear rippled like a wave. But Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady though his body shook. He is not just yours, he is ours. He is family, the warlord snarled. Human words. Weak words. We take him now. He raised his hand. Soldiers stirred, weapons charged. But the commander lifted his arm sharply, stopping them. His burning eyes swept across the humans, then landed on his son. Child, he said, his voice thunder and stone. This is the moment. Choose. Do you stand with them? Or do you return with us? The square went silent. Every human leaned forward, breath caught in their chests. Every alien watched with fire in their eyes. The air itself seemed to freeze, waiting for the child's voice. Luma's small body shook. He looked at Daniel and Sarah, the only parents he had ever known. He saw Emma smiling through her tears, clutching his hand. He remembered nights of laughter, warm food, gentle love. Then he looked at the commander, his true father by blood, strong, fierce, powerful, the last of a proud people, waiting for him to carry their name. Tears glowed in his strange eyes. His voice broke. I am both. The words cut through the silence like a blade. The humans gasped. The aliens stirred angrily, their voices rising in a storm of rage. One warlord shouted, No! He cannot be both. He is ours alone. But Daniel's voice rose above them. No, he is ours too. Blood may be yours, but love is ours. And that matters more. The warlords advanced, weapons glowing, fury in their faces. But then the commander raised his hand again, his voice deep and final. Silence. The ground shook as his words echoed through the square. His soldiers froze. Even the warlords fell still. The commander turned back to his son. You speak as human. You speak as alien. You are both. That is truth. His voice grew sharp, directed at the other leaders. You would deny him? You would take him as a weapon, strip him of his will, use him for war? Then you are no better than the enemies who destroyed us. The warlords hissed in anger, their bodies tense with rage. He belongs to the fleet. No, the commander said, his eyes blazing. He belongs to himself. The aliens bristled, their ships above humming with power. The humans clutched each other, waiting for fire to fall from the sky. But then the commander did something no one expected. He turned his back on the fleet. He knelt before Luma, lowering his massive frame until his glowing eyes were level with the child's. His voice softened, heavy with pride and sorrow. My son, you have chosen, and I will honor it. He looked at Daniel and Sarah. He is yours, but know this, I will not leave. Where he goes, I go. If he stays with you, then I will stay too. The warlords erupted in fury. You betray us! You betray your blood! The commander rose, his presence towering. His voice roared across the square. I betray nothing. Blood is not only war. Blood is not only power. Blood is also life, and he has chosen life with them. The fleet above stirred, lights flickering as if the armada itself was uncertain. At last, one by one, the smaller ships withdrew. The warlords spat in anger but obeyed the commander's command. The sky slowly began to clear as the armada pulled away, vanishing into the blackness of space. The humans let out a collective breath, collapsing in relief. Mothers wept. Soldiers lowered their weapons. Children clung to their parents. Daniel held Sarah close, his heart racing, his eyes never leaving the glowing figure of the commander. Because though the danger had passed, one truth remained. The most powerful alien in the stars had just chosen to stay with them. That night, the colony was alive with whispers. Some were afraid, some were hopeful, but all knew their world had changed forever. Inside their small home, Daniel, Sarah, Emma, and Luma sat together. And in the corner, silent and watchful, sat the commander, the alien father who had once been their enemy, now their uneasy protector. The choice had been made. But in the quiet of the night, the commander whispered to himself, others will come, and they will not ask. The colony breathed again, but the relief was fragile. The alien fleet had withdrawn, their glowing ships shrinking into the horizon of stars. But fear still lingered in the hearts of the people. Everyone knew the truth, this was not the end. In the center of the colony, people gathered, whispering, staring at the alien commander who now stood among them. He was a giant in their world, a warrior from another race, a being of fire and steel. Yet he had not left. He had chosen to remain. Children hid behind their parents. Soldiers kept their rifles close. No one dared speak first. At last, Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady though his heart raced. You stayed, the commander's glowing eyes fixed on him. Where my child stays, I stay. His voice rolled like thunder, but it carried less anger now. Only certainty. Sarah's arms tightened around Emma and Luma. She studied the alien with caution, but also with something new, something like respect. Then what happens now? She asked quietly. The commander turned, scanning the colony. His gaze swept across the fragile walls, the human faces, the simple machines that struggled against the desert. You are weak, he said, but you are stubborn. You fight even when you cannot win. Perhaps that is why my son chose you. The days that followed were uneasy. The humans returned to their work, repairing machines, harvesting crops, guarding their homes. But every step they took, they felt the commander's presence. He walked among them like a shadow, silent, watching. At first the colonists were afraid, but slowly curiosity replaced fear. They watched as he lifted broken machines with a single arm, carried supplies heavier than 10 men could bear, and stood watch through the night without rest. Children whispered stories of the giant protector. Some even dared to follow him at a distance, their laughter returning after many silent days. Luma never left his side. The boy's glowing eyes mirrored the commander's, but his smile belonged to Daniel and Sarah. He ran with Emma through the dusty streets, played with simple toys, and laughed like a human child. Yet when danger stirred, when shadows passed overhead, He stood tall like his father, ready. The colony began to change one evening. As the sun bled red across the desert, Daniel sat outside his home staring at the horizon. The commander stood nearby, silent as ever. At last, Daniel spoke. "Why tell us the truth? Why stay? You could have taken him by force. None of us could have stopped you." The commander's eyes glowed faintly in the dusk. "Because force is what destroyed my people. Power without purpose. War without end. I will not make him a weapon." Not as they wanted. Daniel studied him carefully. "So what will you make him?" The commander's gaze turned to Luma, who was laughing with Emma by the fire. For the first time, something softer flickered across his face. "I do not know," he admitted. "Perhaps what you humans call family." Daniel's chest tightened at those words. He had not expected them, but the peace was thin, fragile as glass. At night, when all was quiet, the commander stood at the edge of the colony, staring at the stars. His voice was low, almost a growl, but filled with warning. "They will come," he whispered. "Others stronger, they will not ask. They will not listen. They will see only blood." Sarah, standing behind him, shivered. "Then what do we do?" The commander turned slowly, his glowing eyes sharp. "You prepare. You teach your children to stand. You make your weak walls strong. You learn to fight not as prey, but as hunters." He looked back at the stars, his jaw tight. "And when they come, we will face them. Together." The next morning, the colony awoke to something new. Training. The commander began to teach. Not with guns or machines, but with discipline, strength, and unity. He taught the soldiers how to move as one, how to see before striking, how to fight even when outmatched. He showed Daniel how to hold his ground without fear, Sarah how to read danger before it came, even Emma how to stand tall without trembling, and he taught Luma most of all. The boy's power grew, guided by both human love and alien strength. He learned to control the energy within him, to shape it, to protect rather than destroy. His laugh still rang through the colony, but behind it was something new. Resolve. Weeks passed. The colony stood stronger than before, though danger still loomed in the silence of space. One night, as the stars burned bright, Daniel sat with Sarah by the fire. Luma and Emma played nearby while the commander stood guard, silent as always. Sarah leaned against Daniel and whispered, "Do you think we did the right thing?" Daniel's eyes followed the children. "We gave him a family. That's all we could do. The rest, we'll face when it comes." Sarah nodded softly. A new beginning. Far above, in the endless dark, ships stirred in distant systems. Enemies whispered of power, of blood, of a child who should not exist. The colony was not safe. Not yet. But it was no longer weak. And as the firelight danced across the faces of human and alien alike, one truth stood firm. They were no longer just a family. They were a promise. A promise that when the stars brought war again, they would stand together.